The name of this talk is 100% Big Data. You need to pronunciate it like in a cool way, so it's Big Data. And it's 0% Hadoop and 0% Java, whatever it means. Basically, after the CERN keynote given today, I can just pack my bags and go home, because those are impressive numbers and this is useful stuff. And but well, I had this presentation, I have this time, so let's do the best out of it. Actually, I like smaller rooms because of being close to the audience and being like a good target, so you can throw beer bottles at me. I'm a little bit too sarcastic. I think you would call it like that. So, okay. Briefly about myself. Well, I'm working for Codecentric. I'm doing technology consulting in bleeding edge areas. Also, whatever it means, I mean, everything is kind of bleeding edge technology, which is not typically JSF, Spring, and Hibernate. So, well, I'm trying to find my way through different technologies, and I also write books about different things. So I have 3 of them already done, and I also have this one running right now. Big Data for IT decision makers. It's absolutely non-technical compared to the previous one, which is on the market for now 1 year. It's Erlang OTP. Okay, let me put this disclaimer. I told you I'm sarcastic. But basically, I don't rant. I just express my opinion. And those who know me, who have attended my talks, will also know that I like to tell stories. So it's a story, and we can do questions afterwards. It's an experience presentation. So, does anybody know what this is? Oh, sorry. This book? Okay. Let's go on. So the story begins like that. I'm in a presentation of different companies and products, sitting there listening to... is anybody from the company called Intensity here in this room? Nobody? Okay. Does anybody know what they do? So basically, the presentation was like, you know, we have big data and big data and big data. And remember, I don't rant. So from my experience, every talk given at a conference is kind of marketing. Either you market a product to a point, or you market the company, or you market yourself. That's my experience. So, but in this case, I'm just sitting there listening to this, and it looks like Houdini magic. So what is done there? Does anybody know who is Houdini? Awesome. So it's like, you know, they analyze real time. I will come to this point later. Social networks and looking for example, for different companies who are partners with them or customers for rants on products. For example, somebody just writes, this fucking, oh, I'm sorry, am I allowed to say this on video? Awesome. So this fucking Samsung S3 doesn't work. And it's real-time analytics, so the vendor will get informed about this incident in a way. So it looks like magic. And in the presentation was a map of the world, and all the time some tweets are popping up with rants and stuff. So what I did just in the middle of the presentation, I sent a tweet ranting pretty much about a product, what I could derive from the presentation, but I have never seen my tweet to pop up, so, well, I mean, okay. So I think you're telling me it's smoke and mirrors, right? I'm in this industry for over 20 years, so I learned that there is nothing like smoke and mirrors here. Well, smoke basically when you just burn your hard disks. So it's like, it looks like natural language processing. Does anybody do like natural language processing here in this audience? Does anybody know what it is? Okay. So it looks like this to me, and it looks like a lot of math and also, well, sort of machine learning. The machine does something and it informs people about rents. Does anybody also do machine learning for a living? That's hard stuff. So I think, hey, come on, I can tinker this, what is happening there. I mean, as I see, my own tweet is not popping up, so something must be behind the scenes, so it's sort of big data. And that's basically the explanation what I did to tinker this. So the first thing that I'm thinking of, getting back to the hotel, is where can I get this big data? And for rents, you need a platform where people say what they think before they think what they say. What is this platform? Of course, it's Twitter. And including me, I also say what I think before I think what I say, most of the time. So I realized, of course, I need to drink my big data pretty warm, straight from the fire hose. That's how you would name this thing. So I asked Twitter through searches and stuff, how can I drink from you or from your fire hose? Basically, the fire hose is not available for normal people. So you can get the data from GNIP and from DataSift for a small license fee, more or less, maybe pre-analyzed or something. So it's nothing that I can easily do in a hotel room. And there has been something like Garden Hose, but as far as I can understand, it doesn't exist anymore, even for research project. So the poor man's alternative would be to, to consume this public stream. Did anybody do something like that previously? Consuming public stream from Twitter? Okay. So you get something like, up to 2,000 tweets per minute maximum. Just let it come. So, I mean, well, it's not impressive, right? It's not big data, isn't it? Where is this big data? But just remember, I'm sitting there listening to a presentation, not even seeing my own tweet. But still, I think I can kind of tinker this. So I start sketching some bubbles here. Well, basically, how I would do this, I have some tweets here, I consume this thing, and I queue this stuff, and then I do some analytics, and then I would report this. In my case, I just decided to write a file because I didn't want to send the rant tweets to anybody. So now I need some adequate basic tag to tinker this. So, well, I'm doing Java for far over 10 years now, and there is a lot of stuff you can use in the Java world to do something like that, more or less quickly. So it's a big selection here of stuff. Are there any Java fanatics around here in this audience? Real hardcore fanatics? Remember, I'm sarcastic. Don't take it personally if I rant, or if I'm being honest. It's all in good fun. So, when I think of Java, strange things come to my mind. I've seen a lot of solutions based on, well, basically written in Java and using the whole ecosystem. They're pretty overloaded. And for my tinkering, I'm just thinking, come on, a little bit too much maybe. And just another disclaimer, I like the JVM. I actually love the JVM because it's a complex and it's proof tag. And you also can do mechanical sympathy. Does anybody know what mechanical sympathy is? Okay, that's a pretty cool term. I think LMAX guys have brought it into the IT industry. But when you do it on the JVM, your code starts looking like C, and you would push away GC cycles as far as possible. So the question is then, why not just use C? But anyway, around Java, there is a big ecosystem. And there's a huge community, and there are real bright guys working on the JVM itself. They're real cool experts. But still, I like it. I love it. But strange things come to my mind when I think of it. Does anybody know what it is? Can someone tell me this? What is that? Excuse me? Yeah, that's actually maybe true, but I would say that it's just big data on your hard disk. Because in order to compile something which is halfway sophisticated, you will download half the internet on your hard disk. That's real big data. So actually, the big data on the JVM is also a pretty rich thing. So you have Hadoop, you have Pig, you have Storm, Asper, and all these CEP engines. You have Mahout to do machine learning. You also have tons of libs and frameworks and libraries experiences from other people. And it's also a big part of the hype around the Hadoop ecosystem. But still, strange things come to my mind. Do you want me to elaborate on this one? Not really. Let's skip it. There is also this. I digged into a different platform for the reasons I just wanted to learn it. I just wanted to meet those awesome guys working in this community. So I like Erlang, and I also do Erlang. I also have written a whole book about Erlang just to learn it, so it took like 2.5 years doing so. And there is a different perspective on this. I think it's not well readable, so just let me read it for you. It's one of my tweets. I'm like saying something that I think before I think even, you know. So I slowly realized that I will never have something they call a success because I simply refuse riding the mainstream wave. So I just want to experiment. So what I did, I just decided to combine Erlang-based software that I delved into previously with Python hacking, because I wanted to do more Python hacking. And Python is actually very popular among scientists, if you know this. And it's also scripting, and I really value scripting. I mean, it has, of course, drawbacks when you really need your stuff to be compiled. But anyway, I like scripting because it's pretty flexible. So I sketched some concrete bubbles for that. It's pretty simple here. Just read from the sample stream using Tweepy. It's a small library for Twitter access through Python. Then I would just build on Rabbit. I would queue this stuff, and I would use NLTK, and I write the results to the file. Does anybody know about NLTK here? Well, NLTK, this is the framework. It's written in Python and also in Fortran. Well, basically, the basic libraries are written in Fortran partially. So it's absolutely awesome to do things on text, analyzing text, in whatever way the NLP would need it. But the question from a big data expert could also be, you could really do multi-phase MapReduce on that, right? Well, the problem here is that you read from the stream. So, first of all, this sample stream, you will never know where it ends. And the problem with MapReduce that you first, for example, with Hadoop, you would first need to fill the data kind of into HDFS. If you don't do it, well, the other way is it would be just to consume it from the web or somewhere, but then it comes to the split. You need to split this data. You need to bring up that many workers or mappers, whatever, that would fit into this concept, into this model. So typically you can't MapReduce stream data. You don't do it. I didn't attend the talk by Nathan Martz yesterday, but I think he will have explained in detail why it's not possible. And still, what will be done there has nothing to do with real time. Real time in terms of computer science is something different. Time is time, so it's time bound, and you have hard real time, you have soft real time, and the difference is just what happens in the case of the error of the problem. So you can call it near real time or as fast as possible, or even something that can be done while you are ordering a pizza. But anyway, everything in this chain is pretty boring. I think half of you guys at least have done something around RabbitMQ for queuing. Well, except NLTK, except NLP. So what I thought first was, well, I would use NLTK just to analyze the text, and I can tinker this kind of, and I can find rants, and my problem was that it just came different in this case because of this. Does anybody know who Justin Bieber is? Does anybody like him in this audience? Okay, I don't judge, but the problem is that it was a flood of believers, and these believers are people who officially love Justin Bieber. So in this case, I have like round about 60% of the sample stream was just garbage. It wasn't useful. Something comes in that has nothing to do with anything. It's just a promotional tweet or something for Justin Bieber. So those of you who do machine learning and stuff will know that for statistical work you need a lot of data. So the more data you have, the better you can train your classifiers if you classify, the better is the result by the end of the day. So then I say, okay, I need to filter something. I can filter out believers, it's okay, but what's next? What are the next criteria to do so? Let's walk through possible criteria. Reasonable usernames. Does anybody in this audience know who this guy is? Okay, this is a big geek, and the problem here is that we probably all know who he is, but how can machine know about him? It's just DHH here. Almost impossible, so just forget real names, just forget usernames, just forget Twitter names. It's almost anything. Let's walk through the next possibility. For example, a profile bio. James is an awesome geek, but in his profile, in the bio, he says, sexy as fuck. So would you filter out this, knowing that this guy could possibly also rant? The answer is no, so you wouldn't filter it. So even if it's swear words in there. The other cool guy is Sui. The history of this slide is pretty simple. I've met him in San Francisco in March, and he left before I left. And I think for 3 or 4 months, even after he came back to Israel, his tweets have been geolocated with San Francisco. So it's absolutely unreliable information as well. This one is not that well known. Well, basically, you have this field for your own location that you can provide to Twitter. My location says Senior Rubber Duck. Well, it's kind of professional title. Does anybody do rubber ducking here for a living? Are you guys popular? I do it in both directions. I love it. It's a cool thing. So I just wanted to pimp my Twitter profile page. So how about correct language? What would you do with the language? This is just a small example from Google Translator. We just type in wood night, and it's getting detected as German. I mean, Google Translator is a pretty awesome thing. That's real cool. It took me some time to tinker this together here. But, well, I mean, I'm not Google. I don't have this data. I don't have this information, so I need to tinker something from my own here. Well, basically, it's not English. It's not German. And, well, for me, it looked like 80% of all tweets that come through the sample stream when I scratch away 60% of garbage. Okay, so I can do only my best. And that means I would not filter for location. I would not filter for profile bio. I would use an LTK to classify between English and Spanish. Just let it come. So the problem there with NLTK is everything is based on corpora. So corpus is just a text. It might be tagged, it might be not tagged, however you use it. But basically you need a sort of basic information that you can sort of compare with what comes in and find out if it's negative or positive or something. What they do there, actually in the available corpora, is they use movie reviews and some chat protocols. The data is not that big, and I'm pretty sure that it's been censored before. So for real rants with swear words, it wouldn't work that well. So what I had to tinker also to separate reasonable language from a useless language for me was to, well, I just said Spanish after a couple of hours of tinkering. Spanish seems to be a magnet for anything else, anything but English. So just push it away. Everything that comes in is Spanish, and the rest is English, and I can deal with the English thing. The probability calculation there is also not that simple. Anyway, I would resketch my bubbles then, and the bubbles would look like this. I would consume the stream, I would queue this, then I have to filter, then I would push it in another queue, then I do my analysis, and then I will report. So it's getting a little bit bigger. The concrete bubbles are looking like that. It's still pretty simple. It's just two queues in the rabbit exchange. So I'm careful now, and basically what can I filter out? Losing some data, which is not good, but I need usable data. So it means that I can almost filter nothing out. So this also means that what is there from the data point of view is almost nothing. So I need to make this data even bigger. It needs to smell like big data because it's Houdini magic and big data and stuff. So you would just ask Twitter, how would you stalk somebody? You know users, and you can get more users through, when you reference a user or mention a user, you can have this user as well. So it would kind of explode. And how can you stalk this? The problem there is that you have the current limitation is 150 unauthenticated API calls per hour. When you want to do stuff like me, you need to have an authentication and an app for that. So it's 350 calls per hour. Just compare it with the numbers I told you about. Then you have limits per IP address. So how would you scale this? Scale would mean you can use more IP addresses. I would just throw the name cloud into the audience right now. Whatever. You could scale through more users. You just create users and apps, and you will scale like this. But chances are that you will hurt yourself with terms of service, and it's just an experiment. So I just wanted to tinker this Houdini magic here. So anyway, there is more bubbles than originally. Consume, queue, filter, queue, store somewhere, do map reduce, analyze the data, and report this. And the concrete bubbles are those that I have used, even still Twippy, Rabbit, NLTK, Rabbit, React to store data, Disco to do map reduce, NLTK file. But wait, React Disco map reduce? I mean, didn't I tell you that I wouldn't do it without Hadoop? Well, let me explain the tag a little. So what I didn't explain before, I picked Rabbit because RabbitMQ is fast and reliable and flexible. It's written in Erlang, so it's Erlang-like and reliable, first of all. Second thing about React, we're in the NoSQL track, so it needs to be related to this. It's also written in Erlang. It can store your data distributed, redundant, and reliable. And it's based on Erlang, so Erlang distribution, redundancy, and reliability. You just buy it with it. Did anybody ever hear of the Disco project? No? Well, Disco project has been created, as far as I know, by Nokia and open sourced it. It's something that they use internally for MapReduce things. And it's pretty cool because it's not only written in Erlang. Well, it's core for distribution, for firing up workers and do this whole stuff is written in Erlang. But what you do there, you write Python mappers and reducers, or jobs, and they get distributed, so you would natively be able to access an LTK, and that's it. Well, actually, this is a whole chain for that. I just wanted to use the NLTK with the most experience of all NLP guys all over the world. So what I do with this chain here is I store users in the React data store. Then I run Disco mappers data locally on the React nodes, and I would ask Twitter for users and the followers, in order to grow the database here. It's very slow. It's done recursively. It's becoming a huge graph. It's slow because of the API limitations, but still, just remember, I'm sitting there and listening to the Houdini magic. So why would I queue this? Because I want to drink from the sample stream. I just assume that I don't know how much data I will get. Those are not impressive numbers, but still, I just wanted to store data in React in a distributed way without any possibility for a data store to slow down the whole chain. I can absolutely not impress React with these numbers, but it can become more and more and more. Maybe I will buy a yearly license with DataSift. I'm just kidding. So what about this Python stuff? The Python stuff is, well, Python is slower at some points, yes. The whole chain would balance it out. So again, I want to do qualified NLP using NLTK. And, well, there is a couple of possibilities how to solve it. For example, with PyPy there are impressive benchmarks how you can run NLTK programs, NLTK-based programs, scripts with PyPy even faster. Of course, I can do this whole thing on the JVM, but just remember those strange things coming to my mind. I mean, just to be honest, we all are, maybe all guys in this audience are currently doing JVM-based work for living. But, just to tinker something that is absolutely outside of this mainstream and this whole hype, because I will explain you by the end of the presentation that it's not about this tooling and stuff. So, well, I'm finally at this point of this rant analysis. Now I have the whole tool chain, I have my tweets. I can grow my database with the users and stuff. I would stalk for them, I would read their last 100 tweets or something. So how would I do this? Well, the very naive way to do this would just look for swear words. But how would you deal with something like that? It says, oh my God, it's cold as fuck, I love it. How would you classify this? Is it a negative or a positive emotion? Almost impossible. Well, in this case, I would say fuck and love would maybe kind of balance out each other, and oh my God, well, it also can be positive as negative. So anyway, this one doesn't help much. You cannot even filter it out because it's not about Justin Bieber. So the right way to do this, and that's what worked in this case, is sentiment analysis, for example, through naive Bayes classification. Does anybody know about this? Okay, cool. So I would just suggest that even if you hate the talk and even if you don't agree with not using Hadoop or something, just have a look at statistics and things like that. Well, actually, this classification problem of the text is the home of NLTK. That's why I picked it and created a whole tool chain around it. So it can tell A from B on the text, classify this. But you need better corpora for that, because as I told you, they use these movie reviews, and I'm pretty sure they have been censored before. So you won't find those heavy words in there. The question is, where would you get this corpora? Does anybody have a suggestion? If somebody knows what is a corpus, it's just a list of words, for example, or text words or parts of text and stuff. Where can I get something that is real heavy swearing stuff? Twitter? Well, I'm trying to analyze Twitter. You need to sit there and classify everything. You need something which is maybe, well, more predictable. So that's easy. Does everybody know Linus Torvalds? Well, he's not swearing that much. He's an awesome guy. He's one of those who have actually managed to change the IT world. But anyway, when you have a post starting with like, you sir are Maroon, you can expect that this is sort of negative, maybe. So you can derive some information. A little bit more here, Mr. Zed Shaw. Does anybody know about him? I hear somebody laughing. Or is it in the different room? No, he's also a great geek, but I mean, it says programmers need to learn statistics or I will kill them all. And it goes on and goes on in the post. So it's pretty impressive how much, well, rent classifiable information you can pick out of this post. So at the end of the day, I have my file with rents, and the numbers are this. Around about 50,000 users per week, maybe 5 really qualified rents. I don't have colorful charts, I don't have this map and tweets popping up, even my own tweet not popping up there, because I'm pretty sure that the sample stream of Twitter is being, well, explicitly filled with belieber tweets. But never mind. So what I learned from it, and what I can tell you what's also possible to learn. So I learned some useful things there, experimenting. I'm now more allergic against Kool-Aid than I've been before, and I've written a book called Pragmatic IT Architecture, which is pure sarcasm. Well, big in the big data doesn't necessarily mean that it's big. Whatever big means. I mean, CERN guys know what big is, but in a different way. There are different ways to deal with big data. So what I did here, well, I had to tinker some technology here. I had to teach Disco not to fire up workers on existing nodes or available nodes. I had to tinker it to use pre-started nodes and to call Erlang functions natively because I want data locality. I want to pull data out of the vnodes of this one React node, well, with possible risks of duplicates maybe, but still, data locality is a very important principle when you do this. When you do MapReduce on something where you just need to fill pile A with the data from pile B, this will slow this whole thing down. I also started implementing something called SAU. It's a German word. 4 Germans in there, right? Okay, so you know what I mean. Okay, it's like pig, but in German. And did anybody use pig here? Nobody? No, I can't believe it. Really? When you fire it up, it says grunt. So mine says oink. It's just for fun. So I will work on it and to test maybe potential, just to have a Python implementation of pig Latin processing engine here, so I can use even more abstract way to do MapReduce, to write MapReduce jobs on top of this Disco and the whole tool chain behind the scenes. So, I mean, for those numbers, which are not very impressive, maybe, it's possible to run the whole thing during several weeks on a single W520. It's a Lenovo machine. It's half a cloud. I call it half a cloud. Video greetings to Mr. Darragh Ennis. He loves it when I say this. Like, it's a mobile workstation, so I have a laptop with 7 kilograms of weight. What do we learn about big data in this talk? Well, actually in the area of the social data analytics, first problem that you have, it's absolutely chaotic. So you need to find ways to store this data, to process this data in a way that you haven't expected to come. You cannot rely on anything, neither location or something like that. In the case of this stream, it's mostly garbage. You can expect the same problem also when you access Facebook or something. It's a lot of tinkering. I think everybody who does some statistical work would say that you need to tinker the result kind of until it makes sense. So you need to, so you need to tinker your algorithms. You need to filter. That's one next problem. So you have to combine 2 approaches. This MapReduce stuff wouldn't work on as a filter because, I mean, before it hits the data store, you would need to filter the data. So you need 2 different approaches here. It's a lot of math, statistics, machine learning, analytics, and all that. It's not that complicated with NLTK, for example, but still you need to understand which algorithm is better for what. And natural language processing in this case, tool selection freedom is very important. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not about the tool. It's not about what you pick. Don't expect that when you pick Hadoop out of the shelf, it will work automatically for you. That's the point in this Kool-Aid acceptance or not acceptance. And it's endless playground for geeks with aspiration. Well, I think that I have some aspiration here. I just want to get better every day to learn new things, so I need to get to the ground of how to process this data, however it comes, wherever it comes from, in the best way which is possible. So just let me say it more abstract. It's about what you're trying to find in the data. That's big data. You need to know what you want to find there. It's about finding the best mathematical way to find it, because it's about math, analytics. It's about filtering out what you don't want to see, and it's pretty much garbage in there, wherever it comes from. And it's about knowing limits and hotspots and trying to create a setup around this. And it's also about picking the right tool chain for this job. It's not only one tool, it's a combination of different tools. Even if you go for the JVM, you would maybe kind of combine for different purposes, Asper or Storm and Hadoop for different things. From my experience, companies fail right now, potential customers, in this big data adoption, not because they've heard about Hadoop and don't really have anybody to do this because it's technology is learnable. It's because they don't know what to do with the data. So if you go out and say to them, hey, it's mathematics, we can analyze this. So then my job is done. So let me just wrap it up. Big data is 100% data. It's not new, it's just like chaos, but it's still data. You can analyze this, you can process it with all possible uncertainties that you have. It's 0 to 100% Hadoop. So it's actually different than the original title of the talk. It's also 0 to 100% Java. That's very important to know that even if this Java world is really rich, there are different solutions for different purposes that you can use, and it's always a combination of different things. It's also not only SQL, NoSQL, whatever buzzword you would use there, NoSQL or not. It's also not black or white. You just need the right tool for this special job. In my case, I just picked React because A, I wanted to pick React. B, I had experience with React. C, I know how it distributes and how I can access it then. So that was the best tool for this case. And it's absolutely science, it's absolutely analytics, and it's a lot of experimenting before you get results that are reasonable. So that's it. Thank you very much.